It is confirmed, and Brad Stevens just made a move as one of the two-way spots has now been waived, as Miles Norris is no longer going to be within that main Celtics or Boston Celtics team, and this opens up options for the Celtics to add some people for Joe Mazzulla's potential roster, as he likes to utilize some of those two-way guys, specifically with some injuries already coming into play this season with Jayson Tatum out. We could see some of that play. So kind of buying into some of those guys could be a key for the Celtics team to finding some hidden gems. And we're going to be diving in and exploring what this move just happened and who could potentially be that guy replacing Miles Norris coming into that final two-way spot. All of that and more on this episode of the Celtics Digest. I'm your host, Bruce Veliz, with my co-host, Patrick Billings. And Pat, we have a nice little video today to discuss some news. The Celtics are just sprinkling in moves here once a week, just keep our appetite a little bit intrigued, and then just stalling out and waiting another week to just sprinkle some more.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, at least it's something that we did just kind of cover just a little bit. We weren't really 100% sure what was going to happen, but I think this is kind of the move that we did see left on the table. So not too surprising, but good luck to Miles Norris, of course.
Exactly. And we'll get into all of that in just right now. So let's dive into that, Patrick. Make sure to grab everyone snacks, and let's dive into it, as this is interesting for the Boston Celtics, as we mentioned, Patrick, and like you kind of said, not really surprising, as this is something that we had kind of kept an eye on after the Celtics had traded RJ Lewis when they traded away Georges Niang, giving them the possibility of not being able to retain one of their draft picks. But unfortunately for Miles Norris, he was waived. He was added to the Celtics late into the season last year, if you do not remember, when Anton Watson, the former second-round pick from the Boston Celtics in last year's draft, was waived for Norris. And Norris had a pretty solid summer league. Like you mentioned, we're wishing the best for him, but he had a fun summer league, fit pretty well with the team, had some good offensive rhythm stretches, and could have been another offensive guy to kind of grow through that system, but they clearly saw a little bit of a benefactor in bringing in some of these younger draft picks and letting Miles Norris go somewhere else.
Yeah, I honestly think that he had a great G League as well. I think he averaged, 17 points per game, shot well from the three, and that was something that fit into the Celtics system. A lengthy guy, shoots the three ball well, can cover 1 through 4 just about. We saw in the summer league with the minutes that he was kind of getting about 20 minutes a game, it seemed like, and it seems like they really trusted him. So it's like kind of put them in a weird spot, even us just talking about what move was going to be made, and really just settled down to this one. It seems like the Celtics really just want to let these guys come in fresh, all these new guys, these rookies, kind of setting up for a signing here, but we'll touch on that in a little bit. But I mean, we saw that with J.D. Davison, Miles Norris, also kind of just now a little bit older, and just kind of want to keep it young. And I think with R.J. Lewis coming in now, I think just gives them an opportunity to just see someone else grow in the system with that 2-year, two-way deal. I think it gives them a lot more opportunity, and I could totally see why they made that move.
Yeah, I can easily see why they did it, and we all know one of the main reasons why they went to acquire RJ Lewis. And if they didn't go out and do this move, I think Miles Norris would still be on this two-way spot, because they would have had that flexibility with bringing in that other guy that they want to still have, which we'll talk about just in a little bit, Patrick, like you mentioned. But now, obviously, with Miles Norris gone, that now clears up another two-way spot. The Celtics already are trying to shed that salary, and that's what they did by bringing in RJ Lewis. They traded away Georges Niang for that two-way contract. Now, by waiving Miles Norris, they don't shed any amount of salary because he is a two-way deal. He's not onto their actual salary, but this does give them the flexibility to add someone else, and like we're kind of alluding to, we'll get to who that is just in a little bit. But the Celtics have been absolutely fantastic in shedding this money. We discussed this in our latest video, shedding over $300 million in just luxury tax and salary this season, and it's really set them up to kind of benefit from kind of diving into these younger players.
Yeah, and I think this is a great opportunity for the younger players as well. I think this is something that we've been talking about all off season, especially with the two-way guys. It gives them a lot of opportunity to come up and actually kind of make a point when they come up as well, because I truly believe that there's opportunity for everybody on this roster, especially this year, just trying to figure out what it'll look like moving forward for this team when everybody's healthy, everybody's back, and they'll look a little bit better when it comes to the salary as well going into that next off season. So this is just a year for opportunity, and I think that these two-way guys are going to learn a lot over in Maine, and when they come up, sitting behind a lot of these guys like a Jaylen Brown. I mean, I'm sure Jayson Tatum will be on the bench for a lot of those games, kind of just hanging out with everybody, just kind of staying in the loop with everything, but to learn from these guys like Chris Boucher, who's been in the league for a while, Derrick White, Anthony Simons, if he's still on the roster come the beginning of the season or at the trade deadline. I think there's a lot to learn for these guys, and for some of them as well. I really just truly think that there's a lot of opportunity to get a lot better.
Yeah, I think like what you just mentioned, we're going to see that this season. We saw it last year a little bit throughout the year. We saw Drew Peterson, we saw J.D. Davison get some run throughout the December, January months as well, even against good teams like the Cavaliers. I vividly remember that with Drew Peterson getting some minutes. So we could maybe see that with guys like R.J. Lewis, Max Shulga, potentially that final two-way spot. It is kind of weird that the Celtics also are adding Chris Boucher, like you mentioned, a former Peyton Pritchard Oregon Duck teammate, and are waiving Miles Norris, also another teammate of Peyton Pritchard. So Peyton Pritchard's getting that teammate cycle going through in Boston, but we'll have to wait and see what that does mean for the final two-way spot, which we have some hints about, Patrick. So let us know your thoughts about Miles Norris. Like we mentioned, I expect him to get another two-way spot on another team, like we talked about. He played really solid in the summer league, and I would expect him to do that. So let us know your thoughts on that down below. What will happen now, though, regarding Miles Norris? With the Boston Celtics as well. Well, let's get into that, as Bobby Manning here has, his projected depth chart for the Celtics. Derrick White, Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Jaylen Brown, Neemias Queta. Then that would leave Anthony Simons, Baylor Shireman, Jordan Walsh, Ugo Gonzalez, Josh Minot, Chris Boucher, Luka Garza, and Xavier Tillman. With Jayson Tatum injured, that is the 14 guys on the roster. Then you have two ways with now guard Max Shulga, forward RJ Lewis, and you still have that unsigned other second round pick in Amari Williams. They have other guys going to the training camp in Aaron Scott, Jalen Bridges, and Hayden Gray, putting them to that 20 limit at the camp, still giving them flexibility to look at Mystery Man and Charles Bassey, but also to bring in Amari Williams. And that's someone who played pretty solid in the Summer League for the Boston Celtics, was talked about and getting a potential two-way contract, and I think this is where we're going to see that really fall into play.
Yeah, I think with Amari Williams, there was a lot of questions. I think when we drafted him, I did have a lot more higher hopes, but going into the Summer League and watching him play a couple of games, it really didn't seem like he was as ready as I thought that it would be. And I think that him getting an opportunity to be on this two-way, like we also expected in the same time. But if we're looking back a week ago, if this two-way spot wasn't open and they didn't have the rights, he would just be with the G League, and I think that would have benefited him just as well anyways. I think that he does need some time to develop and really figure out the type of player that he's going to be, not only for the Celtics but in the NBA. He's a great passer, and things that he just got to work on with scoring, and there's a lot of big men on this Celtics roster that do a lot of things differently. We see Neemias Queta, who's more of a low post dominant big, Luka Garza, who's shooting the ball a lot better. I mean, Chris Boucher, a little bit of a smaller guy. I mean, not Amari Williams' height, not the length and the type of build that he is, but I think that there's a lot of people that he can learn from, and I think, like I said, with the other two-way guys as well, I think that he will benefit from this a lot more, just because the center position is really a question this year, and hopefully maybe there's a way that Bassey can kind of make this roster still. I'm still on that train a little bit, but I think that this is a great opportunity for Williams as well to, when he gets brought up, get that opportunity to play.
Yeah, we always have to bring up Charles Bassey, our favorite guy. He really impressed in the Summer League, and I would love to see him get a training camp invite. We talked about how he'd love to come back to the Celtics, still has the interest in playing for them. So it's mainly just the ball's in the Celtics court now if they want to extend and give him that final roster spot or not, to remain that flexibility. We'll have to see if the Celtics make any more moves, because that could still be telling if they could potentially make a splash like that. But like we were talking about with Amari Williams, once they brought in RJ Lewis for Georges Niang, a lot of people were like, oh, well, now what's going to happen to Amari Williams? Could they potentially lose him? We already talked about how that can't happen. The Celtics have his draft rights. You mentioned how he could have played in the G League as kind of like a G League draft and stash, and then potentially could have gotten, a two-way spot later on to the season. I think this is the better move for the Boston Celtics. We talked about it a little bit earlier last week, but unfortunately for Miles Norris, if you're trading for another wing and you kind of came in through the last season, and like you mentioned, they want to stay younger and invest into these draft picks, especially one in a position of need in that center department who can be that little bit of a passing big, something that the Celtics did lose with Luke Cornett and Al Horford. I do think a guy in Amari Williams is the guy to really bank in and bring in as that two-way spot. And like we've seen the past couple seasons with Namish Keita and J.D. Davidson rise to those two-way contracts. I'm not going to say it's guaranteed that someone's going to get that final roster spot or something like that, but if someone does impress, we could see a guy like Amari Williams, R.J. Lewis, or even Max Strolga getting that final roster spot at the end of the season, and that could be, a little bit more telling for their future with the team as well.
Yeah, I think R.J. Lewis, too, is a very interesting guard as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets that year deal on the two-way. I've seen him play a lot at St. John's. He was an absolute killer, of course. Come March Madness, Pitino wasn't really too happy with him in the way that he was approaching everything. But, I mean, this is a different game now. He's in the NBA. He's with a great team in the Boston Celtics. And, that does change everything. With going from Utah, I think you're going to Utah and having a bigger opportunity for maybe a team that's going to struggle a lot next year. Well, now you come into a team that's looking at a really small retool in 1 year and then looking to really battle back and get to a championship. I think that brings a different fire under you because you want to be a part of something like that. You want to be the reason why they get to that final spot, and that's raising another banner for Boston. And I think that this could bring a different fire under him because he was in college for a long time, and I said that these are the type of guys that the NBA GMs are looking for now because you can fill right into these teams, play a good role. If you figure out your role early on, you're going to do well, and if he finds that out early, I think that he'll end up finding a spot with this team. I mean, a 6'7" guard kind of fits in with that NBA type of prototype, and hopefully he ends up being well as well. But, I mean, we're just going off what we've seen with the main Celtics that have come up and done well here, so why can you not expect the same for them?
Exactly, and you mentioned he went to St. John's. We're both Big East guys, so we pay attention to that. But not only that, he went to UMass Amherst before, so having that little connection to Boston. Obviously, we know Austin Ainge left the Boston Celtics and went to go be the GM, so maybe doing a little bit of helping, taking on some salary, giving him the hometown, a guy that played college in Boston or in Massachusetts has that little relevance, and I think that's going to be nice. And you mentioned 6'7" wing, potentially could be competing with those guys like a Josh Minott, like a Jordan Walsh, like a Ugo Gonzalez, like a Baylor Shireman, to kind of figure out who are going to be these next, potential two-way guys or, roster filler guys like the Peyton Pritchards, like the Luke Cornett's, like the Sam Hausers, those depth pieces that have succeeded in the past that we have mentioned multiple times. And I think that's what the Celtics are trying to do now, is trying to figure out with these, untapped potential pieces, who's really going to shine, who's going to step up, deliver, and help be those depths and those role guys. And if they can have all of them be that would be great. Obviously, most likely not going to happen, but whoever can stick out and stand out will definitely be getting some long-term plans with the Celtics as they try to push for those championships.
Yeah, and it'll definitely help with the salary as well. I mean, the Celtics look at a lot of salary, and if they could work off these guys on a smaller contract, it definitely helps them in the long term when it comes to looking for more free agency signings in the next offseason with a little bit more money to work with. I think in a perfect world, one of these guys at least works out and makes the roster next year, and we got a totally different team looking ahead. But we can only expect more moves to be made by Brad, and I would say we'd have to wait until next week.
100%. And maybe, who knows, maybe he'll sprinkle a little bit more of news for us over these next couple of days, and we'll have some stuff to break down and get into. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to this latest. Like we mentioned, we do have a open roster spot and a open two-way spot, and it would all signs be pointing to Amari Williams getting to be that roster spot, but we'll have to keep our eyes on it. But once that news does break, if he does get it, most likely we will have a video talking about Amari Williams. We might do some little research on R.J. Lewis as well, trying to figure out some of his development game and what he could really bring for this Celtics team. And if there's anything else you would like to see in the offseason, let us know down below in the comment section. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, hitting that subscribe button, and being with us. Signing off, it is Bruce and Patrick. Have a great rest of your night, and go Boston Celtics.